Welcome back to Better Pet Parents, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to continue our series, Advice from an Insider. And this series that we're going to come back to from time to time here in our weekly discussions at Better Pet Parents is to help shed light on the professional side of animal care. These are things that I feel like are not being talked about enough out in public. I think that these are things that if the general public hears more about it, there will be more knowledge to help people become better pet parents, having more information about what goes on in the professionals' lives that are in your pet's life. So I think that it's very important to shed some insight on all the different aspects of professional animal care, whether that's veterinarians, trainers, vet techs, physical therapists, specialists, groomers, everybody that's in that world. It's important to shed some light on some of that so that pet parents can be more aware of what goes on when they hire services for their animals and how they should treat the professionals in their pet's life. Sometimes being the best pet parent that you can be also relates to being the best client that you can be in those professionals' lives. Sometimes they go hand in hand, and the purpose of this series is to help you guys have more understanding about the professional side of things so that you can be the best pet parent that you can be. Last week we talked about approaching relationships with vets. This week we're going to talk about approaching relationships with groomers. This is a topic that I feel very strongly about because I am a professional groomer. I've been a professional groomer for 11 years. And just to go ahead and warn you ahead of time, this is a topic that I've always felt like I could write a book about it and I still wouldn't have had the time to express all my feelings about it. So I'm not going to be able to express everything in today's discussion, but I will try to shed some valuable light on this to help you have a little bit of insight about it that maybe you didn't have before. And the first thing that I think that people need to know about the profession of grooming, it is a very strange, weird, unregulated profession. It's also a very underestimated profession, and I'm going to elaborate on what I mean by that. So when you go and you have your hair done at the salon and you see that little certificate on the wall where your hairstylist has their license displayed, that's because state law requires them to have gotten a license to be able to perform services like that on people. If they're going to touch people, put chemicals on people, etc., they have to have a license to do that and have passed the exam to do that. The same is not true for pet grooming. To my knowledge, there is no state regulating the licensure requirements about this. There is no state that I'm aware of that is requiring anybody to have any level of education or experience in order to do these services. And what that means for the general public is that anybody can go on the internet and watch videos about grooming and then go out in the world and tell people that they're a groomer. And no one will know the wiser, no one questions it, no one realizes that everybody doing the job is unlicensed because no one is enforcing licensure. And if they were enforcing licensure, there would probably be no options to get your pet groomed because there are so few places to go and learn how to do it. A lot of groomers will tell you, if you ask them about it, that like if they're in a position of hiring at that establishment, that they will tell you if you get somebody come in the door, apply for the grooming job that has been grooming for 1 year and went to school and has a certification from a grooming school, or the other candidate has 10 years grooming experience, they're going to hire the candidate that has 10 years grooming experience but who does not have the schooling. Because the schooling at the end of the day doesn't actually mean anything to anybody in the industry, and it's not required anywhere. And the people who have been doing this for a long time that are in the positions of hiring or management are going to value experience over education when it comes to this industry. So I want to emphasize this so that people are aware. When you go to the vet, that vet is always going to be licensed to be a medical doctor, and they had to go to medical school and become licensed to do their job. The groomer did not have to go to school and become licensed to do their job. So while you can feel pretty confident about any vet clinic that you go to about there being a certain level of care for the animals there, you cannot tell yourself the same thing about pet grooming. And people need to know that so that they're careful about who they hire to take care of their animals when it comes to grooming and hygiene and haircuts and everything. When you're choosing a groomer for your pet, it's very important to know that that groomer has a good reputation. When it comes to these groomers, you know, it literally could be anybody. Like we said, anybody can say they're a groomer and people don't tend to question it. So it's up to you as the responsible pet parent to go ahead and question it. You know, do the research. Do they have a reputation that speaks for themselves? Do they have good reviews? Did you hear from word of mouth that people have good experiences with this person's services? Because those are the ways you're going to be able to feel confident leaving your pet in their care. People really need to be aware of this because people have a lot of strong opinions when it comes to grooming. If there's one thing I've learned over the years in doing this, it's definitely that people have strong opinions. People expect for their groomer to be available to them within a certain amount of time. They expect for their groomer to charge a certain amount of money for those services. They expect for that groomer to be able to do that job, to do it well, to do it up to the request that they give to that groomer, make that pet look how they think that that pet ought to look. They have a lot of expectations about groomers, but they don't realize that there's no qualifications in place to do this job. So this is something that I really feel like is not being talked about nearly enough, and that people really need to know this for a couple of reasons. Not only so that you're aware of who you're trusting with your pet's care when it comes to grooming, and so that you can feel good about who you're hiring, but also so that you can appreciate the people who do it that are good. Because groomers are very, very hard to find. And I would encourage everybody, when it comes to today's topic of approaching relationships with groomers, to know a couple of things. When you contact a groomer and they might tell you that their price is a certain amount, you might think, firstly, that that sounds expensive. You might think, that's outrageous for dog grooming. But just remember and tell yourself what you actually expect. You expect for that person to have the skill set to be able to essentially do a haircut on a moving target. The dogs do not know that they're getting a haircut, and they don't sit still like people do to get their haircut. So you expect for this groomer to be able to do the job, do it well, do it up to your request, have your best your pet's best interest at heart while they do it. Have the experience to do it, be able to get through the whole thing without injuring your pet, use quality, clean equipment, and yet the public does not understand all the scope that's out there of the differences of people offering this service. You know, you've got people that, like we talked about earlier, might just be some rando that watched internet videos and decided to call themselves a dog groomer. And then you have the people who have been doing it for 20 years that are excellent at their job, who can tell you with confidence that they're gonna be able to offer a quality service. And those are the people that are worth top dollar. And then on the other side of things, you need to be more apprehensive about who you hire. So when it comes to choosing a groomer, make sure that you understand that groomer's reputation. When it comes to selecting a grooming facility, it's always a good idea to go in there and take a look around, see what you think about that facility, because, you know, there are certain standards that some of us hold in terms of the state of our facilities and the level of cleanliness that we maintain. And then there's you know, other sides of that. Nobody's regulating it, and nobody has a license, and you just don't know what you might get. So you need to express caution when it comes to choosing a groomer, And then when you find a good one, you need to appreciate them, and you need to recognize that their prices likely reflect the value of their work. You need to understand that groomers work on an appointment-based system. They are dependent on their customers to show up for those appointments and keep those appointments in order to get paid. And that does not go just for the self-employed groomers out there. It's very, very standard in the industry for groomers to get paid on a 50% commission type basis. So when you go to almost any salon, let's say that you miss an appointment or you don't show up for it, then that groomer just didn't get paid. They're very likely not getting an hourly wage that pays them a salary no matter what. They get paid per dog. It's also very important to note that when it comes to price about animal grooming, a lot of people might think that it sounds expensive, but more than likely, the cheaper that service is, the more animals that facility is trying to do per day to make ends meet. Groomers have to keep the lights on, pay for their supplies, pay their workers, pay their taxes, pay their insurance, and then they get to pay themselves. So one of the things that I feel like the general public really needs to know about grooming is that what your groomer's fee is not what they're getting paid. So if you go to like a brick and mortar facility that has 6 groomers, that groomer that did your dog is likely getting paid on commission. So whatever you paid them, then they probably got half. They might have gotten 40% if they're also paying a bather and they're only just doing the haircuts. And then if you hire a self-employed groomer, they're likely getting somewhere around 50 or 60% on that scale, because they've got to pay all their bills before they can pay themselves. One of the things that has been an ongoing theme in my own professional career as a groomer is everybody always telling me how expensive I am. I know that for my mobile fee, I'm a mobile groomer, so my mobile fee is $100 less than what I pay my own hairdresser. It's $75 less than what I pay my massage therapist. I know that I've compared my fee before to people that come around and do similar types of residential service calls. So you think about the people that are coming to your home to do a skilled trade. That could be anybody like a plumber, a carpenter, electrician, anybody coming to your house to do a job. Those types of companies tend to charge a service call fee, and then on top of it, they charge labor and parts. And my fee amounts to like half of those services, but it's the groomer that is always accused of being so expensive. So I really encourage you, when it comes to approaching your relationships with your groomers, to really research the cost. Not only do you need to be thinking about how they are a skilled trade doing a job that you cannot do yourself, but the animals don't sit there and behave the way that people do for their own haircuts. It's an extremely dirty job. I can tell you that I don't know a single groomer. I have never known a single groomer in my entire professional life that has not had health problems from doing the job, who has not had serious physical consequences of doing the job, whether that be arthritis problems in their hands, or in my case it's my neck, and I know other people that have got back problems and everything, or have been severely injured on the job. A lot of groomers work for themselves or work alone and never have assistance with all that restraint, so that tends to do a lot of damage to these groomers' bodies. And I think that people just really need to understand that when they're hiring a groomer, it's not easy. It's extremely hard work. In terms of these mobile groomers, they're in an environment that the air quality is so bad that it literally puts them at risk of lung disease. everybody's been bit, everybody's been, had to go and get antibiotics at least once in their career from a severe bite. I think people just don't understand, and I think that this is something that the proactive pet parents out there really need to be thinking about, is that think about what's involved in the job, ask your groomer what's involved in the job, watch some videos on the internet about grooming, and just try to give yourself a little bit of a visual about how difficult that job really is. And then also, if you're calling around and you're getting prices and you think that something is outrageous, compare it to other skilled trades. Compare the price of that service per the amount of time that you pay on your own services to your own cosmetologist, and then tell yourself that the groomer is probably working 100 times harder and that there's so many times that it can really be a true wrestling match. And I think that people just have no clue. And I think that when it comes to approaching relationships with groomers, the best thing, and I'm telling you, this is the inside secret, the best thing you can do when approaching those relationships is to treat that person with respect, because all they hear all the time is that they're overpriced, and they're not overpriced. If they've been doing the job long enough to be confident in what they charge, then I guarantee you that they're probably worth it. You need to consider it a red flag if you compare prices on local groomers and somebody is substantially cheaper than everybody else. You need to be scared of that, and you need to ask yourself why. You need to realize too that because groomers are paid on either commission working for somebody else, or if they're self-employed, they're totally dependent on those appointments being kept. You're kind of like their boss. They're not going to get paid unless you show up and pay. They go to work like any other member of the middle class. They go to work to pay their bills. They go to work to make a living. They do not go to work to play with puppies. And I guarantee you, here's an insider secret. I guarantee you that if you tell your groomer, oh, you get to play with puppies all day, they will hate you. If you say that to them, they will not appreciate it. And I'm kind of saying that to be funny, but kind of not, it's just such an underestimated profession. So you need to be very careful about what you say to them. Make sure that when you are booking appointments with them, that you give them adequate cancellation notice if you can't keep them. You need to understand that if you're on like a regular schedule with them, they're keeping you in a rotation. I'll give you an example. I'm a mobile groomer. I start at 8 a.m. and I go to 6 p.m. On any given day, I can do up to 7 dogs. So that's up to 7 stops. That equates to a 10-hour day, and I do it 4 days a week. On the 5th day, during the overtime hours, I'm at the laundromat washing all the dog towels. I'm doing the accounting and the deposits. I'm doing the oil changes on the generator. I'm scrubbing out the van. I'm doing all the rest of the stuff to do with the business. So you can do the math that there's a very limited amount of spots. And if those spots are going to people that expect you to show up every 6 weeks, if you have 200 people calling that month, you just simply can't accommodate everybody. So if a groomer says that they're booked out 3 months, or if they're not taking new clients, it's probably because they're good. You need to understand that those services take a minimum of an hour and a half to do correctly, and they can only accommodate so many people. And I say that to explain that a groomer is going to give priority to the best jobs. If the clients are essentially that groomer's paycheck, and those clients are like their boss, well, think about it. You want to work for somebody who dependably pays you, who dependably gives you the shifts that you've signed up for, who thinks that every few years you deserve a raise, who tips you if you're in the line of cosmetology. And so I'm just telling you guys that approaching relationships with groomers can be a delicate matter. They're always going to give priority to the clients who make the job the easiest for them. The ones that keep their appointments, pay their bills, don't have trouble with them, tip them well, They're going to receive priority because they're there to earn a living. And remember, they don't get paid what the price of the grooming is. These are all things that I think the public really needs to know about. And like I say, if you find one that you like, you need to keep them and treat them well, because they're very, very hard to come by. A lot of people don't stick with this line of work because it's so hard and such a dirty, hard, difficult job, physically painful job a lot of the time. So that's why it's so hard to find people that have done it for years and years. A lot of people just can't keep doing it after a certain amount of time, and that's why people have such a hard time filling the positions at their brick and mortar storefronts, is that groomers are so hard to find. It's because people don't stick with it. And remember what we talked about, that there's no licensing in place. So you need to be careful about who you trust with your pet's care. And if you do find somebody that you trust, remember that they're very overworked people, and be respectful of their time and schedule and treat them well. And I guarantee you that if you treat them well, they will appreciate you and treat you well and prioritize you as one of the top clients. So that's today's insider secret from the grooming world. Thank you so much for sticking it out with today's discussion, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you.